if you take a look at black people, they have it pretty good when you consider we've had a black president. In the NBA, it's all black people. We have these huge blockbuster movies like Black Panther, which are entirely black casts of people.
Hey guys, welcome back to Shantae Said a Thing, because y'all already know we stay saying things on this side of the net. Now today, this is my first response video to another YouTuber. I always knew I'd get here one day. And today's the day, ladies and gents. Now there's this guy called Techlead. He has another channel called Techlead Show, something like that. And pretty much his shtick on the internet is that he markets himself as an ex-Google employee / current millionaire. That's what he talks about in most of his videos. Everything is as a millionaire, everything is as an ex-Google lead. But that's not what this video is about. That's just an introduction to who this guy is. He talks about mostly technology and things of that sort because that's what his job was when he worked at Google, apparently. Today we're talking about one specific video that's not on topic with what most of his videos are about. He has a video titled Exposing Black Lives Matter. It's just reverse racism. Pretty dramatic, I know. But it gets the views. So I just wanted to create a rebuttal to pretty much everything that he said. Because he said that no one wants to have conversation. They just want to, talk-ish on the interwebs. So, yeah, Mr. Techlead, here's your rebuttal. Oh, and before we get started, I just have one quick note. Y'all know my second theme to this channel, Shantae Said a Thing, is I said what I said, not what you said I said. I meant what I meant, not what you said I meant. I feel how I feel, and I am not sorry. Alright, let's jump into it.
So I wanted to continue my discussion on the whole Black Lives Matter movement and give you my thoughts on this. I've done some thinking about this, and I've come to the conclusion that this isn't about logic. It's not about equality. It's not about a debate. And people want stuff. People want privilege. And that's really the only means of survival that they have.
These stuff are called rights and equality. And yes, that is very important in terms of survival. These days, this is all Americans bitch about, is having rights to survive. So why would you not want these stuff?
And you just start blaming other people for your position. And you just take on the victim mentality, the victim mindset.
First off, you brought up specifically Black Lives Matter, which at the moment focuses on police brutality. So why the hell would we not focus on who's to blame for police brutality? By definition, it means the cops are using unnecessary, excessive, and unlawful force. And I am so sick of this "you're taking on victim mentality" talking point. If you get punched in the face for literally doing nothing to nobody, then by definition, you are a victim. And acknowledging that does not mean you have a victim mentality in the way that you're phrasing it. It means you just want justice for being victimized. And the same applies for all other issues that Black Lives Matter and all other black groups have been exposing for years about being mistreated. Accepting mistreatment is weakness, but standing up to it is strength.
And you start saying, it's because I was born in this way. It's because you're being racist against me. It's because people are not being fair to me. And you just start blaming everybody else out there and saying, the world owes me something.
Just a quick reminder, other races have been owed something from the U.S. from their mistreatment and have gotten reparations from the U.S. to correct the wrong. And that includes Asians, specifically Japanese Asians, that were captured and thrown into internment camps during the war. Asking for what you were owed is not asking for a handout, nor is it blaming the world just because it's asking to right a wrong. And being racist towards people and putting laws into place to prevent them from striving to the top does actually affect large groups of people. Not 100% of everyone will be able to get around that. Otherwise, everyone will be doing it. Some do get left behind, while others do find the loopholes and are able to work around the system that was built to oppress them, but let's just call them handouts.
Because if you think about it, really, there are so many other minorities out there that have been discriminated against, right? For example, Middle Eastern people, Native Americans, they're probably being discriminated even more so than black people.
Here we go again. One does not discount the other. No duh, other minorities have been discriminated against too, but how does that take away from the discrimination black people face? Not seeing your point there. This isn't a competition of who has it worse. It's all bad.
In fact, if you take a look at black people, they have it pretty good when you consider we've had a black president. In the NBA, it's all black people. We have these huge blockbuster movies like Black Panther, which are entirely black cast of people. You've got black people represented in movies, music. Almost every single big Hollywood movie has several black people in there. And then when you take a look at, well, where are the Asian people in these places? Where are the Native Americans, Indians, Middle Eastern, Italians, Filipinos, and all the other types of people who compose up of America? Where are they?
So black people have it good because we had one black president, because black people were mostly in the NBA, which, by the way, is a dumb argument because that is entirely based on physical skill. If a manager wants to win, why would they pick a player that isn't as great just to avoid black people? If they know that black person can make their team win, your argument makes no sense. Funny how you mention all ball players, actors and singers, but not engineers, doctors, lawyers, and such. Just artistic careers. Also funny how you mention all these big blockbuster movies, but you only named one. The one with the word black in it, which is probably the only reason why you even remembered it. And it's even funnier because it was only 2 years ago. Can you name 10 in the last 10 years without Googling it? Probably not. And even if you did, you still wouldn't be able to find 10. But I guarantee you can name about 20 blockbuster movies starring white people in the last 5 years with and without Google. So essentially, because we have Crazy Rich Asians, that means Asians are no longer discriminated against, right? Oh wait, weren't Asian adults and children being beaten up this year alone for bringing coronavirus to the US? Exactly. Also, having black famous people doesn't stop racism and lack of opportunity for the regular folks. Please stop with this narrative. Also, the spaces you were talking about with music as rap, hip-hop, and R&B. These are genres of music that black people invented, so of course we would dominate these spaces. But what about country, pop, boy, girl bands, and etc.? We are barely seen in those spaces, and yes, there are plenty of us trying to break into these spaces as well, similar to Beyonce and Rihanna. There are more, but usually it's just the same two over and over and over again. So once more, not a very strong argument. And the same goes for movies. Yes, we only have way more black leads today because black people have been pushing for it and starting to write, produce, direct, and hire our own to get our faces seen more. Have you spoken to any actual actors? Because they talk about what's happening behind the scenes all the time. Like how directors tell them their audition was great, but you're too dark. Your hair is too black looking. You're too this, you're too that. So pretty much not white looking enough. Maybe you should actually look into it, as there are literally casting sheets that say this to this day. They're looking for white people to play characters that has nothing to do with being white, but they specifically word it in such a way so it technically doesn't say it, and sometimes they blatantly do, but other times they don't. You should also ask your fellow Asian actors because they say the same thing the black actors do when they're trying to get roles. So it's not just black people. I think you watch way too many far-right Republican commentary instead of the people who are actually in these spaces. Also, Hispanic actors say the same thing, and so on and so on.
And I know that you can say, well, black people have been slavery in the US. Well, you take a look at these other races, like take a look at Japanese people. They were war prisoners in the US. They have probably been treated even worse.
Saying other people like Japanese were war prisoners and comparing that to slavery and everything that came after is not even remotely close to the same thing. And I think you know that. You conveniently forget to mention Jim Crow laws, redlining, the KKK, the KKK, bank discrimination, minstrel shows, so many other laws and cultural events that specifically targeted black people and not Japanese people. So that was very disingenuous. And saying it's in the past and just to forget it is such an easy thing to say, but it gets pretty hard to do when you're reminded every single day that people hate you and you get called the N-word and constantly being harassed and getting reminders that people claim you're inferior, and you have white supremacists walking around. And you have white supremacists walking around boldened and being openly accepted. And you have the KKK still in 2020 sending out postcards to people's addresses asking them to join and help dismantle black people even further. And newsflash, literally every year police officers, judges, lawyers, and etc. get exposed for being KKK members or associate with organizations or donating money to them and etc. or being exposed for saying racist things themselves. These people have power and they use it to further disenfranchise us. Many wolves in sheep's clothing.
I believe that every generation should start fresh, right? I don't want my children to have to pay for the crimes of my ancestors. That was the past, let it be, and you can't really just go back and say, hey, remember 50 years ago, 100 years ago, this thing happened? Well, now I want your children to pay for that, which happened to my grandfather.
Me too. I don't want my children to pay for crimes of my ancestors, which was daring to be black, by the way, and then continuing to create more children thereafter. Absolutely horrible. I want to move forward and start fresh too, but it's kind of hard with all the racist undertones in American law, society, and with the KKK still walking around and people chanting Southern Pride with a hateful Confederate treacherous flag. So you're talking to the wrong group of people about not letting the past go. Talk to the Nazis that the president says are very fine people and the Confederate worshippers who literally are refusing to let the past go of a country that does not exist because they lost the war. But you're not ready to have that type of conversation, are we? And at it, no one is asking for the next generation to pay for anything. We are asking the past generation, whom are still in power today, to give us true equality. That is all. How many times can we say we're asking for equal even though we actually deserve more?
And sure, I do understand that there may be some systemic bias, but the path forward is not to fight racism with more racism. If you want to lift people up, I would say that you help people not just based on skin color, which is not quite the right way to think and move forward, but based on social economic class, income levels, poverty level, language ability, geography, neighborhoods, those type of things.
So let me get this straight. You want to stop systematic racism and you understand how it stifles people, but don't want to do anything to actually stop systematic racism because, bootstraps and all. And no one is fighting racism with racism. We know this because you conveniently left out any examples on how that is actually happening. It's not, by the way. It's funny how you say we need to help so many disadvantaged groups and you mention every single group except race as if race isn't one of the ways people have been disadvantaged by. Also, all the things you mentioned is exactly what Black Lives Matter and other groups have already been saying, but we want to specifically focus on black people within these same groups because whenever those type of socioeconomic groups do get help, the black people within those groups still get left out, which is why race needs to be included. If racism didn't exist, there would be no need for any of this at all.
I want to show you something that bothered me quite a bit, and it was that when I was at Facebook, there was someone known as the Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer, and this person happened to be a black woman. And I just couldn't help but think, could a white male or Asian male or Middle Eastern woman have taken on this role? Or was this kind of like just a role created so that they could have the token black person within the company kind of representing this whole group of people? So many people seem to miss out on the idea that diversity is not just black. It seems like in America, when you say diversity, it doesn't really mean diversity of the rainbow or equality across all different types of people and perspectives, regardless of, say, skin color or even inclusive of skin color.
Here we go again. You don't see it as a problem to say that that black woman only got a job because she's black. It's like you're implying that she isn't good enough or even deserves to be hired. Why is that whenever a white person is hired for a position, they automatically seem like as if they deserve it and they earned that position? While we know damn well that is not true all the time. There are plenty of us that see some white people get promoted. We know damn well they did not earn that position fair and square. But 100% of the time when a black person gets hired for a higher position, even if it's like 1, 2, or 3 or 4 black people in the office, for some reason it's because of quota. That is implying that you think 0 black people are intelligent enough to get a job because they can only get it through freebies. And I can't tell if you know that you're saying this or you don't. And that is incredibly disrespectful AF. If there were 2 white dudes trying to get a position and one clearly is slightly better than the other, but the boss hired the slightly less capable dude just because he liked him more is another thing that happens too. This just shows that not everyone in a position is always hired because they are the best, and this extends to white people too, but it seems to only be brought up with black folks. People always complain about the 3 black people who work at a company of 100 people, with let's say 90 being white, but still think the only 3 black people only got it through quotas, which is ridiculous when we all know lots of white people only get it because they're not black. Hey guys, I've updated my Patreon to show some new goals that I have for both my YouTube channels. On my main channel, Shantae Did a Thing, since it is all about traveling and making money, I'm going to start using those funds so that I can send one of you guys to somewhere cool in the entire world. All expenses paid. And for my commentary channel, Shantae Said a Thing, I want you guys to start telling me what type of videos you want me to review, talk about, or react to. So head on down to patreon.com/Shantae Did a Thing and let's build up the patronage.
Aww, I know you're sad that's the end of the video, but that's okay because you can watch this one or that one and you'll get more of me. This one has a lot of laughter and a little cuteness. This one has cuteness and a little bit of laughter. Either way, you're gonna get a little bit of both. So, yeah. Choose.